All right, how about that? Can you hear me now? I actually had the microphone paused there, but I was laughing because you guys were jumping in after tickets. I had the microphone. Yeah, sounds coming through for me, so hopefully you can hear me. I was laughing at you guys because I said it's funny. The second I get in here, all I see is like spam with ticket, 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 ticket. Failed to enter because I hadn't started yet. It's just kind of funny. Oh, look at that, guys! Look at Josh with no crown next to his name. He forgot to resubscribe. Josh, everybody else is up to 2 month. And FYI, Josh, just so you know, non-subscribers accumulate pip chips at half the rate. Your daughter's like, "Oh God, Dad, come on." We front run everything. Yeah, I know you guys do. Exactly. Josh is like frantically scrambling to try to figure out how to resubscribe with his Amazon again. He's like, "Oh God!" So tonight, every 10 minutes, he only gets one pip chip, guys, not two. Or it's his daughter going, "Dad, I don't know what this means." One, 2 ticket. What is it? 2 ticket stop paradise. Nice. Yeah. So subscribers, yeah, that's if you guys gonna see that. So I set that up on purpose to kind of reward you guys. Right here, you guys can see. So viewers get one pip chip every 10 minutes. Subscribers receive 2 pip chips every 10 minutes. And then there's like cheering, I guess subscribing, following, tipping, and then like hosting, but there's no reason to host or whatever. So I'm not sure how that works. I just know that it's the two that I understand is the viewing, the subscribing, and then cheering makes sense too for bits. I think you get bits in here too by watching. Bits are, I don't know. I don't know how to cheer with them. I haven't quite done that, but but yeah. All right. So the world did not end today. Obviously, with drones being launched and all this other stuff, obviously the world didn't end. I was kind of laughing. I'm still laughing about the whole oil thing. Let's see. The oil thing just cracks me up. Come on. It's not loading yet. There we go. All right, so 61. So, you know, technically speaking here, it was 5% of global production, 5%. And as I brought up this morning, if any of you guys were on the Nadex presentation, here's the thing. It's only 5% of total world production, okay? It's jacking oil prices, and it jacked at what? Almost, I don't know, $8, $9 from Friday. So here's the thing. If you can make more money producing oil right now, why wouldn't another country just increase their production a little bit? Somebody like, say, Russia, why wouldn't they just increase their production to pick up that amount? I mean, why not, right? Saudi Arabia's like, no, 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 we need to cut back global supply. And Russia's always been like, no, why would we cut back producing money? We're going to continue to produce money. Now they're like, hey, if you can get more barrels out, you can make more money. So why wouldn't they try to pick up the slack so Saudi Arabia never actually really needed to produce that 5% anymore? And once the 5% is back online and everybody else's production is higher, making up for Saudi Arabia, what's that going to do to the price? To see? And as I brought up earlier, I'm dying to see what the SEC comes up with. And here's why. Okay? They are a rebel organization. Okay? They are typically funded by other people, right? I mean, rebels half the time are considered like domestic terrorists, right? Or just terrorists in general. And again, they tend to be funded by people. If you could tell your backer, I am going to launch drones and knock out half of Saudi Arabia's oil capacity, okay? Again, you know what oil is going to do. Could you take advantage of that? Could you have bought a bunch of out of the money calls, something super, super cheap, and then when this thing jumped $8 over the weekend, could you have made bank? Yes. So the SEC is looking at every single person that's bought any type of leaps or anything long term or anything that was way out of the money for oil. You know they are. Yeah, we're getting played by these politicians. Yeah, we absolutely are. It's all drama. I mean, the International Energy Commission said this actually is not a bad thing at all because there is so much oil sitting in tankers out in the ocean right now, just floating around doing nothing because we haven't needed it for demand. Now this stuff may finally get the chance to actually come on shore instead of just sitting in ships, right? Yeah, it's just totally. It's the whole thing is just a mess. It's just like whatever. Um, yeah, it's I don't know. Like I said, it's giving the news something to talk about. It's like, yeah. And think about it. I mean, what's Exxon's profits going to do now? I mean, all the oil companies are going to be happy. They're all going to go up. I mean, it's going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty fun. So, like I said, drama, 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 drama. So, as far as pairs that moved, again, there was early movement in both the pound pairs, and those have more or less retraced, and they're kind of just stabilized in the last 24 hours. You can see the euro dollar is really the big mover. It's down about 70 pips in the last 24 hours. That's a pretty directional move. And again, that's actually above what its ATR is. So you always got to look at that one. And again, pound dollar. Again, it's going to be basically dollar associated. You can see dollar strength across the board for the most part. Obviously, with CAD, it's not going to be as much because again, when oil increases, that is also great for the Canadian government, and it will help their economy as well. Again, that was one of the biggest things with Trump coming down. That was a big deal. You know, is what it is. Again, pound news again. You can see over there 9 minutes ago, Boris Johnson says, "Can Boris Johnson sell an all Ireland back to save Brexit?" Who knows? That guy I think is grasping at straws at this point. I just think it's just kind of just, it's crazy. And then if you guys look even lower, you can see NZD remains the 10th most traded currency. You can see there's 8 majors and they're ranked, 10th. So you can kind of see where they are on the on the list, right, of the majors. So some interesting news. Okay, this is kind of interesting too. Trump says U.S. reaches trade deals with Japan, no vote needed. Again, Japan. I didn't think there was any anything that he's doing with Japan is just literally kind of again, that's just I would say fake news for lack of a better word. We can argue with Japan, but again, if we're making China angry, Japan is kind of our go-to for most things, particularly electronics. And again, just because of the situation, we want to make sure that Japan stays a very strong ally, since that's where we need to put ships. Again, it's our job to technically, I guess, protect them. They're allowed to have a defense force, but they have no problems with us sending extra big ships over there to make sure that they're protected. So I didn't really consider that any type of issue with the trade deal. So we'll see. All right, so let's go ahead and look into charts. Also, I got a question earlier. How do you actually purchase things? I believe when you go into the store, I believe you can go in there and you can actually do it from, I think if you do this open store button, if you guys click below and click basically, here, I'll show you. If you guys go down and you click the upper corner here, it will pop up another window in the browser. And then I think that's how you actually get to the store. When I click open store, it comes up to this window. And then again, there's a button here for redeem item. Okay, and again, it gives you kind of the breakdown of all these things. Now, I don't know if we get a dancing bear, a shark, something. I have no idea. I feel like there is something that pops up. I remember setting something somewhere, but somebody did ask how you go ahead and redeem those things. And then if it brings me to Stream Elements, it just brings me to Stream Elements main website. Maybe because you're not logged in. It doesn't bring you to mine. That's kind of strange. Can you guys go... See if you can go here. Can you go to that? Oh, you know what it's probably trying to do? It doesn't know who the heck you are, so you're going to have to log in. That's probably what it's doing. So there should be a button. It'll say like log in with Twitch, log in with YouTube, log in with whatever the third option is. Click log in with Twitch, because you're going to that store and it has no idea who you actually are. So if you go there, hit log in with Twitch, it should give you the option. Then it's like, oh, you are so-and-so, you have this many pip chips. That's probably what's going on. That's probably it. Okay. All right, so let's see if my charts are, you see it? Okay. Yeah, that's what I would assume. All right, so jumping in some of the charts while you're trying to figure that out. So obviously there was going to be gaps in everything. Ernest jumped in there yesterday and was like, gaps everywhere. And again, you had to expect those kinds of things. I expected retracements in a few of them, but again, I think a lot of people are going to be waiting to hear when the production is going to be coming back online. Now you can see in this one we had a 4-hour gap. It gapped pretty far down. Again, it went right below where we had that other profit target at. Went a little bit lower and then tried to retrace back up again. Now, this one did kind of set small shorts that you were able to take in this. It never actually made it back up to its gap candle. It got pretty close, but it didn't quite make it all the way back up again. And again, it basically just, I mean, after this initial burst, it kind of came up and then, kind of had a limited range. So where we are now, one thing we always have to watch out for is we definitely want to look for where the gap kind of started from, right? Now, this would have been your Friday gap, and it spent some time in here, and you're talking about a 10 pip zone, which is not a bad zone whatsoever, right? So there's kind of an area that we're definitely looking if we can get a bit higher. Okay, now again, obviously the move that we had was just not an economical move. It was not a move that was based off of big money throwing things around. It was a move based off of missiles running into an oil refinery. So it is kind of more, the move was more generated from I would say, the act of God clause than it was the big money throwing price around. So again, just be aware of that it is a little bit different of a zone. Okay. Again, it's still valid. It still was a launching point. There's most likely still sell orders up at that area from where price closed. But just be cautious that it is a little bit different of an area. It is not a market manipulation type move. It is a global event move. Okay. Got it. Did it work? It knows who you are, Ryan? All right. So, with that being said, slight zone there. Looking to the downside, I mean, we were already looking to get short this pair from last week. You guys can see Friday we ended up inside of that zone, based off the daily, the wick behind the wall. So we were already looking at some type of a negative position. Had you taken this position and it gapped that far over the weekend, you should have immediately got out of it. The second you could have, just because again, you were already that far in a profit. No point taking that risk lower than you actually needed to. And again, where we are now, I mean, we're technically, yeah, with the gap, it kind of messes it up a little bit. We were in an uptrend setup, but we're turning in an area of supply. Okay, we gapped down, we've kind of pulled back up to it, but we really haven't had any type of trend direction. It's just been somewhat retracing back and forth again. Okay, now again, for any of you that were in the parabolic retracement webinar, yes, this is somewhat of a parabolic retrace, right? You would have had to draw a candle. I mean, some brokers just do it for you. Technically, this is what you would have seen. Okay, it would have been a candle all the way down, and this would have turned red. You would have changed this to like this color red, and that's kind of what it would have actually looked like had you had the option that gaps were actually filled in with candles, right? So again, large parabolic move, and it was retracing on its way back up again. So a lot of this is just determining where it was going to stop, where it was going to turn. And again, being also, again, this is a pair you could have absolutely traded inside of Nadex, okay? Some type of reversal. Now, the one problem is it probably would have been jacked up with volatility. I didn't look at it last night. I was way too exhausted. I'm still recovering from the end of last week. But again, that is a retrace you could have taken today. Most likely because of this retrace and it kind of went all the way back up, you probably would have most likely got out. I don't think that would have been bad. But where we are right now, again, we got to get a little bit higher, then I'd be looking to potentially go short on there. Profit targets on this one, probably down in this area. Just we had some nice basing and then a pop, and again, we kind of did this mirror candle right here. So, I don't love it, but that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm still more short biased. I'd like it to come back up again, and then we'll kind of see where this one rolls. You're right, Ernest. Lingering effects to be old. Huh? I'm definitely old. But James, I am old, but I'm very active. So that's the problem. I don't think, James, actually, I think the problem is I'm not old enough. See, I think that's what the problem is. I'm not old enough. Because like old people, you guys have dinner at like 3:30 in the afternoon, and then you're up at 4:30 every morning. I'm not quite that old yet. I'm not at that stage. I eat dinner like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night still. So eventually I'll get there, James. Eventually. And I have not gotten my AARP card in the mail yet. When I get that, then we can talk, James. Pipettes from old. You were talking about taking a day or two to get over that game Thursday night. Actually, it wasn't so much the game Thursday night. It was the combination of things. I actually didn't. I took a shot in the arm, but I did not get super injured on Thursday night. I actually did better than I thought I was going to do. But it was kind of like, so I do what? 2 webinars on Monday, 2 webinars on Tuesday. Webinar Wednesday night. I did that webinar on Thursday afternoon. Then I did the chart school here, and then I went and played lacrosse after that. And then Friday I had the kids lacrosse practice. But then I was up till midnight finishing that report, and then I was up at 6:30 the next morning making sure that half of it wasn't messed up. which one thing was still messed up even the next morning. So it was just a cumulative effect. I'm up at 4:30 and I'm 28, bro. Vic, what's wrong? Vic, you're West Coast though, aren't you? It doesn't count if you're West Coast. I mean, like, I don't know, East Coast 4:30. Nobody's awake at East Coast 4:30. Okay. West Coast 4:30 is only it's 7:30. Texas, man, you're from Texas too? Man, is there anybody in here not from Texas? Ryan or James or Will, one of you guys is from like Nevada or something like that, I think. Man, there will be no Cowboys talking here, just FYI. Texas, another one. Yeah. I'm telling you, our first live event is going to be in Texas because so many of you are there. It'll be easy. Like I said, my sister lives in Austin, so maybe it'll be there and I'll just stay there. Ryan's like, nah, I'm from Wisconsin. 5:30. Will, you're way too young to be up at 5:30. All right, so Aussie, New Zealand still push forward. Now you guys can see here, interesting kind of setup with this one, right? It did go above, it did come back low, and I think we talked about this last week. Oh, no, this would have been all Friday stuff. You guys see what was there? There was white space. The zone broke from the top side. We had white space below. It came back and retested, and then ended up going long off the top. So again, there was a bit of a Harry Potter trade setup on this one. Where we are now on the daily, you can see we're actually, here's the gray line. Okay, we are actually sitting in an area right now of supply. Okay. It's in green. Let me change it off of green just so we don't confuse everybody here. Let's go here to here. And where is that? You guys can see that's exactly where we're at right now. So it is another potential area for us to retrace and turn back down again. I would use the lower area as what my profit target is. It's already bounced off of there one time. We know that there are orders there. Actually, on the 30-minute, you guys can see a level of basing right here. Now, it has spent a lot of time there. I'm not surprised. We do have news tonight at 9:30 in about 12 minutes that will probably provide. And again, it's meeting notes. It's not an actual data release or a figure release. Just keep that in mind. But again, it is set up where price has gone up. It's stabilized. And again, it's been holding here since about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Profit target for this would be down here at 107.65. Okay. North for, man, isn't North Fort Worth just technically Dallas? I mean, isn't it like Dallas, Fort Worth area? Like, isn't Fort Worth just like a suburb of Dallas? Make it close to Dallas. I know you're all in Dallas. James is like, no, those fighting words. But the fiance are possibly moving to Vegas. Ryan, she's a fiance for like 3 more days. You better be careful, right? You're getting married soon, man. You better just start practicing wife and try that on size for size a little bit, man. Ernest is so angry at he's typing. So again, we could be looking for a potential retest on this one. If we do get a color change on the 30-minute, which we do not have right now, actually we may even want to drop it a little bit lower. Don't have it yet, but again, your risk level will be sitting right here above this at 108.27. Nah, there's no reason to take a whole lot of risk. Don't take the entire zone. If it's going to pop down, it's going to go down. Just be careful with it. All right. Looking at Aussie dollar. Make sure we get these Aussie pairs out of the way before news. All right, same situation. Again, we were kind of on the upper side. Again, came all the way back up again. It didn't quite make it. Again, it turned right here and then kind of collapsed back down again and again. Where did it stop? Right exactly where that first profit target was from last week. That same zone. Went back up again, gave you another entry, came back down again. So this one is giving you multiple entries. You guys can see the gold line. It's giving you multiple entries off the gap from Friday. And again, it has made a lower low and it has pushed below finally, right? It did pull back a little bit, but it is making a driving attempt right now. So multiple opportunities to get in on this one, again, especially from where the gap is. And again, gap candle, if you don't like the risk on it, again, you could take the smaller one here and there was your large entry. This one here, if we took it off the smaller, yeah, it's too small. You would have had to take it off the big one, right? You would have taken it off of that, which would have been a 6 pip risk. Okay, and at this point, you guys can see you guys were down about 26. So you're well over 3-to-1 on that one, risk to reward ratio wise. Okay, even this one, you were up 2-to-1 before it came back up again, and you really spent almost no time at a negative on that one. All right. So again, small trade, not a gigantic mover, but again, it is continuing to push further into the zone with an eventual target down here at 68.30. Okay, looking at pound Aussie. Now, one thing about the pound, again, we always talk about how the CAD is the proxy for oil. Be careful because The pound also has a lot of oil exposure. You guys know, like, British Petroleum. Okay, they do have some exposure as well, and it does slightly affect their economy, just because they are one of the big oil producers as well. So they will forever be linked. Doesn't matter who owns the company. They always have some type of exposure as well to it. Again, being an island nation, they don't really produce. They will, oil. It does affect the pound to a lesser degree than the CAD, but more than a lot of the other currency pairs out there. Now, this pair has given us a bit of a pullback. Okay, this one gave us a little tiny bit of a gap in the direction of the trade. Immediately came back down, retested, and now it's been just kind of all over. It's gone down. It bounced right off of that black line. Again, this black line was the target, one of the targets that we were looking for, and again, it was based off of this red candle behind the green candle. It literally went right down. Talk about a bear trap on this one, right? Support and resistance traders like, oh, here's a level of support right here. I see it. And the second it went down, what did it do? It rallied all the way back up again. Okay, and it hasn't gone back since. So, again, this is another one of those trap setting. Looking at it on the daily, again, a lot of lines on this one. Again, we're marking off bottom zones, top zones, and this was a bit of a target area. So, if we're looking at this now, we are in kind of an uptrend, right? It is kind of an uptrend setup, but looking at this, we are in an area on the upper end of the curve here, so we are sitting in an area of supply. So just be cautious with that. Again, uptrend setup, higher time frame. Sellers have been there before, kind of sideways movement. Again, definitely a little bit more bearish on this one. And again, that was okay because when you guys can see on the 4 hour, you can see a red green right here, and it's just continuing to kind of push to the downside. But it has run into some buyers. We've seen buyers down there before, and we talked about before, be cautious. We had this wick over wick. It hasn't even made it to that wick over yet. It's getting real close, but it hasn't even made it there yet. So I do feel that we're going to have a little bit of a floor in this position. I think in this we're either going to need some big pound news, which I believe we get tomorrow is the first one. No, it's Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday morning is when the CPI starts kicking in, followed immediately by a bunch of CAD news. So Wednesday is going to be actually a nice morning. Okay, Wednesday is kind of chock full of data. And then Thursday is where you see all this kind of kick in. Okay, Thursday morning we start off early because you guys like to wake up at, the middle of the night. You're going to start with retail sales, which is always a great number, and then bam, 7 o'clock in the morning is where you get the banknote again. Not expected to change, but the language I think is going to be exciting, okay, for this one. Again, just be a little bit cautious. Now, jump across to euro pound, okay? So, as you can see, euro pound has been a bit slower, okay? Remember that drawing I drew last week right here? What did you see? Okay, white space, it actually came back, so it did do it. Okay, it went down, it stabilized, it didn't continue to push, and again, a lot of the markets really just flatlined later in the afternoon. This one kind of flatlined as of this morning at 10. You didn't really see much movement. As soon as the European traders were out, they were out. But again, retrace down, again, you could have gotten in here, but most likely you would have got it in this zone. Okay, again, looking for, this was a little bit harder. It did burst out the top of that prior level. Had to be a little bit cautious about that. And when you're looking across, looking at what was there, you notice as soon as we popped through this, we had a bit of a clearing. And it was kind of like, we got to go just a slightly, the way that these two candles form, it was a bit of a racetrack. So grabbing it would have been a little bit difficult. This is one you would not have done the analysis on the 30-minute. You would have done it over here on the 4 hour. Now, looking at the 4 hour, situation becomes a little bit more clear. What is sitting right here above the zone? Wick over wick. Okay. And you're using that wick over wick. What do you have? Look at that. There was your entry. Okay. So yes, Harry Potter trade. We were breaking a prior zone. It was a small zone at the bottom. We drew this last week, and it did. It came all the way down. We got our white space, on Friday. Came back up, ended up cracking the wick over wick, which again is this area, which is a little bit kind of harder to see on the 30-minute. Again, very easy to see on the 4 hour, difficult to see on the 30-minute, and then boom, it collapsed back down again. Had you use that as your entry, you're up about 45 to 47 pips, depending on what your spread was on that entry. Okay, so remember, just because you're on the lower time frame, it doesn't mean it's always going to give you the best opportunity or best way to enter the trade. Okay, we talked about needing white space, and yes, we got our white space, but again, that zone is very small, right? Kind of a tiny zone. It's kind of like, can I get in there? I don't know, right? But here, your wick over wick is very easy to see. Okay, and what did it go to? It literally it went just slightly inside of it, a few pips, right? And again, you can see it. We're matched perfect here. You guys see how small it went in there? Just enough to get you triggered. Okay. So again, just because it's following the pattern doesn't mean it won't deviate just slightly looking for a zone. Okay. A lot of times where that zone is also a base. This time it just happened to blow through it and base below, above and below. Okay, so that's where you want to be cautious. Okay, you want to make sure you have the best quality entry in these as you can. All right. So looking at euro yen, and again, that zone for me is still a good zone. If price gets back up to there, let me go back to that real quick. If price gets back up into there, which is at, can't see it over there, 89.00. Great little entry. Okay, loving that one. Okay, mark that one off again. Double zeros, round number came up, barely spent any time there. Wick over wick on the 4 hour. Yeah, I'm into that one. I like that one for later. Looking at euro yen. All right, so where are we gonna go with this guy? So we talked about euro yen being up inside of this kind of sell zone, right? We talked about it before. Okay, we talked about here's your gap from Friday. This one gap below immediately came back up again. And again, this is just so funky. Look at this candle. Do you guys see this? So this was our level that we needed for it to break. It came down, kind of went up again and again. So you did have entries into this one, depending if you would have used this entry, this little kind of sideways movement and pop down. There was a few things you could have done on this one. You just had to be watching it. And that was the problem. This was kind of a late night entry. You can see the original formation was formed last night, and then the zone was really triggered 2-3 o'clock this morning, and that's where we kind of started to get the momentum down until about 11 o'clock today. Okay, the total movement in this one from the entry here was about 70 pips, so quite a bit to grab in this one. And again, you had to be watching this last night using the level of basing. Now, it did go higher, but again, because this was a failure to go as high as this kind of repop back up again, it showed us that buyers had stepped in. So you would have moved your zone something along those lines right in there. Okay, probably about there. And again, your profit target would have been at least back down to this retrace, but it hasn't really stopped since. Okay, at a minimum, you would have been looking to grab this. Okay, actually, let me do it with the other one. Let's get this one off, and let's take this one and go back down. And again, would I have been concerned about this retracement at the bottom? No. And here's why. It's a double bottom. Okay, identical candle bottom, meaning that there's probably not a lot there. Probably would have gone a little bit lower. See where this green box started, this wick here. Most likely, I would have probably said there would have been my initial target, which would have been about 50 pips, and I would have been fine with taking 50 pips on that one. Okay. Now again, was I up at 2 o'clock in the morning last night? No. So I was not in this one. But this is how you guys would have established this one. Your risk on this would have been in 10 for 50. So it would have been a 5-to-1 risk to reward ratio trade. Okay. Delete that. Actually, it would have been 9.4. Okay. And again, here's why this is set up and not the actual gap. This candle right here, let me drop down to a 10-minute. I'll see if I can get a better view for you guys. Okay. You guys see this candle right here? Number 2. Came all the way back up. Now, interesting enough, okay, you can see it on this chart. Interesting enough, what do I say? When we break through a level, look for a retest. Well, how's this for your retest? How's that? Came all the way down. We broke the level. Did it give you white space? Yeah, because it came all the way down here. Came all the way back up, cranked it, and went all the way back down. So technically, I guess you could have traded this right off the gap to the downside. Again, had to have been very, very fast. I mean, that's a 10-minute candle. So you would have been there 20 minutes after this painted. It's super fast. But again, obviously the strategy would still work on that one. Going through the closest level and retesting back up again to the downside. So could have done that one, but let's not get super crazy. But because this is higher than this zone, obviously there's buyers that jam this thing down. Again, rally up, basing sideways. Again, a long time to base there. And then what a huge pushback down again. So we knew that there were some sellers that forced these 3 red candles here. And again, you could have got in here, 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 or in this one went a little bit higher. And again, you may have gotten a little nervous and be like, taking some heat before we drop to 50 pips. But again, what was it? 5-to-1 risk reward ratio trade. So not a bad little setup on this one. So areas I'm looking for now, going back up to the 4 hour, is really where I'd focus my attention on this one. So obviously you can see on the 4 hour, large push away from this area starting around 119.40. I do like that area. Okay. obviously, I like the gap. So again, you need to mark off the gap on this one. And then another area I'm looking for, again, it says profit target level down here where we banked off of last time, this 118.48. We have pushed a bit lower. I don't think this is actually that crazy of a base. You can see it spent a lot of time there and kind of sawtooth sideways. So not super worried about it. But I do think we will get a push back down. Probably a bit lower, but again, I'll be looking for kind of reversing this when we get, down into probably this 50 area, the 118.50, just to kind of see what we have. And again, that's if it doesn't retrace back up again. At this point, I do believe it's probably more set up for a retracement back. As I said, each day, Saudi Arabia knows that each day they're losing money by not being able to produce, unless more drones hit something else. Once that comes back online again, the hiccup of 4 or 5 days with the amount of supply we have is not gonna keep oil there. And again, this pair only moved because of the exposure to that. There was really no news today as far as a Monday goes. It will revert back up to where the price was, and again, bring us back up into kind of this range, right? Back up into the 119. Okay. Now looking at euro dollar as that loads. Well, that's kind of a nice little miss, but HPI is not really. Yeah, house price index is not really going to be a big one. All right, let's see here. Oh, this is where I was getting funky. So one of the things I was looking for, so I was trying to, you guys know I do a lot of stuff on MT4. It just carries a lot more history, a lot more data. It's one of the platforms that's always had just tons and tons and tons of data in there. So I was trying to see how far IG was going back. And when I was working on some of the average ATRs for the news release report, I was going back and trying to use maximum ATRs and see how far back it would go. I was trying to see if I could get 365-day ATRs, obviously, on this one, and I could. It looks like they maxed it out at 199 or 999. So I was trying to go back and get a year ATR of 4-hour candles and figure out based off the year, because obviously this summer was very, very slow. So it's a little bit artificial to use those. And I was trying to go back and get the actual, again, it was obviously volatile in the spring. So I wanted to get an average of the entire last year, and I was able to figure out that 999 is obviously the maximum you can use for the ATR with IG. Okay, I found the limitation. I found it. All right, so again, looking over the 4-hour, because that's really what makes the most sense. You guys can see that a candle back here on Friday, this was super early in the morning. So this was hitting a level of base, and we already talked about this candle coming up and really kind of making an attempt at this zone. But the first fresh zone we had was really this green candle sitting right here. And had you box this candle up, right? I didn't box it off before because we had some room to run, but because we were all the way down in here. Okay. If you would box that candle off again, was this fresh? No. Was this fresh? No. It hit this zone. So this was the first really fresh zone that we had that wasn't a retest of something else. And that's what it used on Friday as far as its catapult area. Now we saw the pop all the way down and price came back up again to this upper side. Now it drove through, used that again as a Harry Potter, right? We talked about this. Pop down, pop back up again, and we hit some areas, right? Now you guys can see where the peak was on this. Here, you guys can go across again. I just drew that. But you guys can see that's where we didn't make it up to. So that was the last level of basing, which just happens to coincide with. You guys saw me draw it here, right, on the 4-hour? Well, what did it coincide with over here? Here was that old wick over wick, right? Again, it burst down. It used that as a base to go to the downside. And when it did, what did it happen? What did it do on the top side again? It came all the way over, and boom, it hit it again. Okay? So in this case, this was an old becomes new. Okay? There was the basing level. We talked about it before. We took our profit off the bottom side. It broke through. We said, okay, you can get short in this one. And again, the short went all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And next time it came up, again, it didn't rally as high. Came all the way across, didn't go as high. Bam. There was your Friday candle. Came all the way back down again. Not only did it blow through this, it went back down, and it almost made it down to the wick over wick here. It would have been, I mean, it's so close. It's so close. Look at this. Look how close that is. Whoops. Look at that. It's so close. It's almost perfect. Look at that. So close. It's by a few pipettes. Almost back to the wick over wick. It was basically front run because the big money knows where those are. Okay. All right. So again, that's why it's important to keep these things marked off. Okay, this was a zone that was established based off the wick over wick. It was a Harry Potter trade. It came back up. It retested. When it retested, what did it show us? It showed us that there were still sellers in that area because it didn't pierce very far. And then after that, it failed to go any higher. Next time it came up, not only did it hit it, it caused a big drop to the downside. Okay, and you guys can see the drop that it has as of a Friday. Okay, now obviously we get to here and we got a little bit of help, but really the gap really wasn't much, right? I mean, do you guys see an enormous gap anywhere in here? Here's the Sunday candles, right? And then here's Friday to Sunday. It's right here. So there's Friday, there's Sunday. Okay. Euro dollar, not necessarily a big gap candle, not really a lot of oil exposure. So it continued in the same path that it was going and retraced all the way back down to the wick over wick where it was clean. Now this is a quite a large move, right? We're talking about top to bottom, 114 pips, basically one day, if you don't count Sunday. It's a bit of nice movement on there. And again, that's why a lot of people have asked before, like, why do you keep all that stuff in your charts? Well, I'd like to know. Like this, I can move. I don't care about that anymore because that was just the zone we were looking for as far as a profit. It blew through that. But again, looking back at this zone, you guys can see why I keep those things up there. Okay. Yeah, and that was the pull through, the retest up, and then we reestablished and kind of refined it once we had the retest area. Okay. All right. Now, obviously on the 4 hour, you guys can see we are in a level of buying, right? This is the last time price pushed back down. This is what led their last rally up. Now, we do have a green, we do have a bit of a red, and we could be looking for price to go a bit higher at this point. Wouldn't actually be surprised at that. Again, it's been kind of so much in one direction, and now it's consolidating. You can see the highs are coming lower, the lows are becoming higher. Again, we didn't quite make it to the wick over wick on the smaller time frame, but it's pretty close, and we are inside of the 4 hour buying area. So just kind of keep that on the radar, okay? Now looking at Euro Aussie. And I will say, guys, if you remember at the end of the spring season, I was hoarse, eating like 12 cough drops a day because my throat was just so sore all the time. We had practice, and it was a yelly practice. There was a lot of yelling going on. And I still had a voice on Saturday. All right, so you guys can see, what did this one do? The analysis on this one was a little bit more difficult. This candle right here, you guys can see it. I'll put a little thing over it. This candle right here, let me change this and make it like yellow or something. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's do more colors. Let's do like a normal yellow. And they don't have normal colors in here. And it's like all like baby colors. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I was looking for like something bright. Maybe orange is the better color. There you go. This wick right here. Okay. This being super wick down, super wick up, little tiny body is going to make analysis a little bit difficult. You're not going to be able to draw zones because, again, price went up, went down, should have cleared things both directions. So you got to be a bit cautious with that. Today what we saw was, again, price kind of came down. It did kind of go right off the green area. I wouldn't have been able to trade this one, though, just because of the, again, the wick is making that a bit difficult. Now, where we are, if you drop it down, let me go not on the 5 minute. On the 5 minute, you're like, oh, look at this drop right here. It's doing a whole lot of stuff. It's like, yeah, kind of, but let's bring it back up to an actual time frame that, would matter. You guys can see, where were we? We gapped right into a 30-minute zone, right, from the weekend. Okay, this is where we started on Friday, and then the Sunday candle gap right up. We'd marked the zone off before, and again, we'd pierced it and kind of gone through it top and bottom. It was more or less, again, we were more or less in this area up top again. Again, you can see it on the 4 hour. I don't know. You may or may not want to get into this one. Again, it wasn't a bad zone whenever you gap into a zone. It's better if it's a 4 hour gap, and it kind of is. Not the cleanest zone, like I said, because this one has kind of pierced through the top and come through the bottom. I would say it's probably only a B entry. It is something, obviously, it was a viable trade you could have taken, but I would have said this one would have been a little bit kind of a B entry. I think there were better opportunities out there. And again, if you guys can see where it kind of stopped, you guys see this pullback here. It's kind of stopped and kind of eaten a bunch of those orders up. It's looking for more orders right now in this zone or this zone, but I wouldn't be interested in taking a short because if it goes too much lower than this, you guys see the little wick over wick right here. It's hiding. It's just sitting right there. And again, with this gigantic candle to the downside, I'm just not. It's not a whole lot there. What's going on, Mac? How you doing, buddy? So yeah, just be a bit cautious of that. So jumping across the pound yen. Like I said, guys, this is Mondays. I'm money chart schools are always a little bit weird with it. Again, particularly when we had a day like we did today. Now, this is an interesting setup. Okay, we had a gap in the opposite direction of trend. Okay, obviously you can see we're trending up. We gapped to the downside. Okay, typically when we're doing this, okay, we are looking for it to retrace back up to where the gap started and then take it short. Now this one didn't even make it up to there. It did do kind of what we saw on, I believe it was the Aussie dollar, maybe. What did we have right here? Level of basing. What did we do? We gapped past the level of basing. Again, if we drew a candle in here, right? If we drew a candle, because that's technically what it would look like, right? Here would have been your zone, right? I'm going to change this to blue just so we don't confuse everybody. Like, why is he making red crosses? What is he trying to tell me? Okay. If we connected the high, I'm sorry, if we connected the close and the open, that, I think that's the darkest color I got here. Like crimson. Yeah, it's not going to be any prettier. That would be where the candle looks like. So what did we do? We went down, we came back up, we had white space, we hit the zone that we broke, and then it continued to go lower. Okay, so kind of the same setup that we saw. Like I said, I think it was the Aussie dollar. Had the same setup. Again, you're always going to be cautious when we have any type of geopolitical event. And my belief is that Russia had a hand in this. Just FYI, I'm just going to go out there on a limb and say it. If anybody's Russian in here, I apologize. But Russia only invades other countries on Saturdays, and this was kind of like a Saturday kind of invasion. So that's kind of my take on it. But again, we've been looking to go short this pair. We've talked about how the last time, if you look at it on the daily, a lot of grinding, a lot of movement came right off of this zone over here at 134.50-ish area. And that's kind of what we were flirting with, okay? I mentioned before last week, I think on Wednesday, if we get up into this 135 area, again, being a round number, wouldn't be a bad area to kind of look for shorts. And again, we got up to there. It pushed through. It went up. And then again, the market went crazy and everything happened. So again, I was looking to get more bearish. I did want to go back to the downside. This is one way that you guys could have gotten into this trade. Again, this is a Nadex tradable pair, so this is something that you guys definitely could have traded on this one. The movement from about last night into today, right? You're looking at about, you got about 60 pips right there. Down to the peak, you're looking at about 90 pips, right? So, quite a bit of movement, and that was around 5 a.m. this morning. And then after that, it just kind of stabilized and went sideways. Gave us one little attempt here before it started rallying back up again. So, there was definitely some potential in this one to take a retracement last night. But again, the entry on that one, you're talking, and you had to be there, 6:30? You had to be there, right away. Actually, Ernest, I believe you were on this one. What? On the 10-minute, it may have been. It's actually a few different pairs had it. If you broke it down, remember, I don't chart on this platform. I use this platform for you guys. But yeah, this happened in a few different places. But yeah, see, same setup though. I could show it to you 6 more times and it's still a valid setup, right? It's the same Harry Potter trade. Break of his own, white space, retouch, and continue. Okay. So where we are now, definitely bearish this position still. Again, we are starting to pull back up again. It gets a little kind of meddled at this point, just because, again, we did get past, we did come up, and we're kind of been going sideways around there. But you can see this is still the same takeoff point, right? We still have the takeoff point here. And again, that's what we're looking at, okay? With the pound news this week, again, if any of it's bad, gives any type of weakness whatsoever, that's going to be the catalyst. It's going to start driving this thing back down again. Even if it's good, I really don't know how much more is there. Like I said, Boris is out there trying to, get all-ins, and this is politics. There's no such thing as an all-in in politics these days, so I'm not exactly sure what he's doing with an all-in, Irish vote type thing. I'm not sure what he's drinking, but it is Ireland. It is Ireland. Maybe he's had a few pints before he made that statement, but you never know, right? But again, looking for anything downside in this one. Haven't really gotten the confirmation I wanted, particularly on the 4-hour. But again, we did, at this point on the 4-hour, if you guys look, I'll stretch it out so you guys can see it. Again, we did gap down. We did have a base and a push down. We are coming back up. So if we are looking for orders, it most likely will be looking for orders somewhere in this vicinity. to make a push to the downside. So if you really want to, you guys can set an alert on this one. Put yourself, if you guys can see 134.00 is right there. Okay, we can make this a the magical gold bar, right? You could be looking for some type of an alert in that area. Again, the bodies are a bit higher. You can see your red, your green, and then look for some type of a confirmation close below. That could be the trigger you want to take this back down again. And again, you're up at 134. 133 is right here within striking distance. So there is the option to go in that direction. Looking at the pound dollar. Now, pound dollar today, again, minus 66. This one actually was a big mover. It was more of a mover than the pound yen was, okay? And again, you guys can see, nice push up to 125. There was your Friday candle, nice spike up, and then again, Sunday started the retest and this, the retrace to the downside. So, the zone that was running into, again, when it popped, you guys come across, you guys can see that we had a bit of a basing here, drop, sideways drop. These two both tested it. They have lower wicks. And again, lower wicks by a ton? No, but obviously it is a lower wick. Just by the angle, it's a little bit difficult. So we were looking for some type of entry there. Going back, let's see. Let's look at, yeah, you guys can see up top here. So the high, whoa, I don't know what the birds are doing. Both birds decided to just start flapping. It's like the air conditioner turned on. There you go. You guys see where we hit? This popped down. It retested to show us that that level was valid, and then continued to push down. So that's what we ran into. Actually, I guess this would have been not quite the third attempt, but this is a pretty nice zone. Big rally up, and that started the kind of the retrace back down again. So looking at the price action, yes, there's definitely some stuff there on the 4 hour that we could have ran into. Looking over here, okay, looking at the 30-minute, when we went up, right, we pushed, we gapped down, we came back up again, went to the same gap. So here was the Friday number, here was the Sunday. Okay, so I'm trying to make this one big. Let me move this line out of the way. Okay. Here's your gap candle from Friday. Okay, a little bit of a gap, nothing spectacular. Came across. Okay. The fact that it kind of pushed down, came back up and retested. Right here, we got our color change. There's our red, there's our green, and there is our red. Right here. Okay, so at most in this trade, you had, take it off the peak, you had 6 pips worth of heat in this one total. Okay, 6 pips worth of heat. And again, profit target for me on this would have been, duplicate that line right about there. Why? Because that was the last start. Okay, this I wouldn't be worried about. And again, did it come up? Yeah. Did it come up to here? You'd be like, you were still positive, and then boom, it kind of collapsed. So in this case, your risk would have been 6. Your profit potential would have been about 72. Right? And again, this was based off of a color change and gap combination. Okay? Again, there was your gap. It did come down. It did clear the gap. It did come back up and retest the gap. And then it gave us a color change for confirmation coming out of it if you were nervous, okay, if you didn't want to just take it blindly. There was your color change, your risk, just so we can get a true risk to reward ratio in this one. Actually, you know what? Let me delete this box first. Put this over here. Would have been about 16. If you wanted to be super conservative, if you want to take the entire level, which you could have done, okay, it would have been 22. So just under a 4-to-1 risk to reward ratio. Right there we go. All right, so 22 for 72. Okay, definitely over 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio. Okay. All right, so again, where we are right now, I'm looking for somewhat of a pullback. I think this level is good enough that we will get a bit of a pullback. Again, you guys can see it's kind of flirted, it hit, and then kind of went and stabilized above. It's got some room to run. But again, I'd like to see a little bit of a pullback. We got it over here. You guys can see we do have a green. It's going to give us that impulse, that corrective move, and then impulse again. I'd like to see this one eventually come back down to 123.40. I think that's probably, let's see, that would be, that's not a bad little pop off of that one, but we're going to say there. Okay, yeah, it's probably a little bit farther down. So yeah, we may be a little bit off on that one, but that's what my profit target would be to the downside if you guys are able to get that in. You took this one in Nadex? Yeah, good. Yeah, this would have been one to grab in Nadex just because it's such a large extended range candle. I mean, no wick top and bottom, went straight up the entire day. It was literally screaming for somewhat of a retracement. It banged the gap. So again, confirmation, no confirmation. This would have been a great one to take in Nadex. Like I said, I was not looking. I saw you make the post on Sunday, but I was like, no, I'm just too tired. I just can't. I can't climb back and do it. Um, and then I went to my mom's house for dinner. So, right. So jumping across to New Zealand. Come on, you can load New Zealand. Load, load, load. All right. So similar situation, nothing too different. Again, this is not a NitX based pair because again, it's the New Zealand. They don't do New Zealand over there. So a couple different things you could have done this one. Again, this one did make an attempt to go lower. It did run into an area. Again, we had this level of basing right here, this wick over wick. You guys can see that the wick here is the same as the wick here. Again, kind of setting up that little bit of a trap. So one of the things about this one is when you're looking to see what it's running into, it did have this large spike candle up again. So it is basically a single wick against the wall. Um, it's basically a similar trade, okay? Of the two, based off liquidity issues and things like that, I actually prefer the other one versus this one. Again, we are getting a failure to go higher. There is a potential to go short in this one. I just don't like it as much. Again, it did turn based off of an area. It kind of came down, grind down, and then what did it do? It hit this zone here. Again, this zone hit the very, very top of it. You guys can see, look. Draw the candle right there. You guys can see. Oh, it's lagging on me. You guys can see that's exactly what it hit, right? Again, not coincidence. It's the same exact bottom. All right. Um, but between the two, I really do like the other one. I am still definitely bearish this position. I want to see if that would have been that failure to go up, right? If again, nice little push, pullback. If this is our failure to go higher and we get a red and start trickling the sideways, I'm going to be looking down here for some type of a confirmation to take this south. Again, we've already kind of gotten it a little bit. It has kind of tickled the top here and where we are right now. Again, any sign, any confirmation, red, green, red to the downside, definitely could be looking. I'm not worried about this zone again. It basically pushed all the way to the end. First target for me on this one to the downside would be 193.90. Okay. Yeah, not an 8x pair. You guys are going to have to take this in spot currencies if you're taking it. Looking at the New Zealand dollar. All right, you guys can see New Zealand dollar is an interesting situation. This one is obviously pulled back down again. This is dollar strength coming back on the market. Strong dollar, king dollar, whatever they're calling it. Now we are in a level where we have seen a pop, right? It was a bit of a retracement area. Looking to the left, you can see we're coming over to here. On the daily, you can't actually see that zone. You can see a little bit of a wick, nothing super crazy. Looking at the lower time frames, you can kind of dial in a bit more and see what we're running into. Wasn't a whole lot until we got down to here. This was the last true time, right where we're at right now. You see this where it popped, went sideways, and then we had about, 5 candles straight up? There was actually a nice little pop, more so than just this kind of grinding that it's already gone through in there. So I would be a little bit cautious about where we are right now. On the 4 hour, you can see that this red wick is lower than the green. So we do have these ascending candles going up. Again, when you have candles like that and that's kind of sawtooth or shark tooth formation like that, layered like that, again, you do have to be cautious that there are buyers there or sellers depending on which direction is coming in. So just a word of warning on that one. This one we didn't trade last night because, again, it was getting very, very small. As you guys can see, the ATR, again, this is on 14. This is not for the year. The ATR right now is down here at 40. So it's starting to get smaller and smaller and smaller, okay? We had talked about, this target last week. Even so, I mean, this is not a gigantic, on the 4 hour, we're talking about, even with this current push right now, we're talking about 40 pips total, okay? In about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 20 hours, it's moved about 40 pips. Okay, again, and that's with this one nice little push, right? We had that one big push to the downside. And again, it was this on the 30-minute, right? Between 6:30 a.m. and at about 11 is where all that movement came from. Because you can see nothing, 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 one move, and then nothing, 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 nothing. So it was about 3 hours where all that movement came in. Besides that, it's literally been like watching paint dry. So again, be cautious about that one. For me, this one really hasn't provided a lot of opportunities lately. Okay, dollar Swiss. Oh my God, you can load. Come on. There we go. Well, that's loading. You guys were doing pretty good on the giveaways. Got 11 of you guys in. All right. So, was I surprised when I saw this type of a gap? No, absolutely not. And again, you guys can see this one more or less sideways. If you look at it on the daily, looking at the 4 hours, kind of the same thing. And we had a nice little pop up. Where did it go? It did go in a level of supply. Okay, is it a great level of supply? Eh, I mean, it was basing. It did give us like a little green and then really push down. It did really, really spike up. So if you take just this area, yes, it's great. This candle right here with a green, little green body and the wick up and down, it's like, eh. But again, what did it do? It gapped to the lower side. It ended up hitting a level of demand. It ended up pushing all the way back up, going right back to the top of the channel, and now it's basing sideways and look like it wants to drop. So could you trade this one? I guess you could if you want to. I would offer word of warning on this one. I mean, if Ty was here, Ty, I don't know if you're here or not, but if Ty was here, he would be like, I like this one. I'm offering you a warning. If you guys want to trade this one, take it. Again, this is a geopolitical based pair. Okay. If Trump decides tomorrow morning that he's had it and we decide to send troops or anything like that, or anybody decides to send troops, or they think, hey, it's been 5 days, nobody struck at us, we're safe, let's launch the drones again, this is going to move. Okay. Anytime anybody mentions war or anything like that, that's where this pair is going to bounce. So again, just with the current environment, we don't have world peace right now, and it's not like we saw like really any type of huge retaliation. It's going to come. There's going to be some type of increased effort, or there's going to be something. And I think it's going to be tomorrow. I said yesterday. I said this morning. I'm like, yeah, I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if by Tuesday we have some type of retaliation there. Today they're doing reconnaissance. Tomorrow they'll react. This one stands a chance to kind of jump. So just be cautious with that, guys. I don't want anybody to get burned by it. All right. All right. Jumping across over to dollar CAD. Oh, that's the thing. Wait, what's that? Mixer settings, volume. Hold on one sec, guys. Okay, that worked. All right. So looking at dollar CAD. So I knew there was going to be a little bit of volatility in dollar CAD. Now you guys can see this one was driving, opposite direction, right? Again, this jump right here was basically oil cost more, good for Canadian economy. Let's give it to them, right? Now, did it come all the way back up? No. Okay, this is one that I was actually looking for. I actually had some orders in here and did not get filled on this one. You guys can see here's the gap from Friday, and then we go across. Let me change it off this weird purple color, and we'll go back over into the red, so it makes sense for everybody. There you go. So did not get filled on this one. This was one I was actually looking to get short if we came back up to this zone. Again, talk about funky price action. Look at this thing, right? All the way back up, gap down, and now it's trying to retrace the gap. So it's one of those things. This one you did have the ability to retrace in. I was actually hoping we get a little bit more out of it. I actually wanted a fast retrace. I wanted to kind of come very, very fast and then kind of fall away as people were creating reactionary moves. We didn't quite get it. Okay, got a little bit close, but didn't quite get to where I really wanted it. Now the gap was an interesting place on this one too. As you guys can see, it actually gapped just past kind of where this green candle took off of, and literally ran right into this zone over here. Again, very, very small, right? Up, sideways, and another push higher. So very interesting place where it gapped to. And again, you guys can see we had the initial pop up. I was just hoping this pop came all the way up and back down again. All right, so wanted more out of it, didn't get triggered. Such is life. It's not going to always work out. Now, where we are now, I do believe this one is going to continue to retrace back up again. I do think it will go back. Again, I believe that over the next coming days, the oil story will kind of revert itself. All the fires are out, and with all the good news, I don't see, again, they made the comment, we're going to attack more things. I mean, if they're going to get brazen like that, then again, they also risk losing those things. So I think they do better hiding them for the next, couple months. And, that's just my opinion on there. Do something to where they can not, they work, save them. Because if you take them out again, they're definitely going to get shot down, and you're going to cause more pressure, more pressure on yourself. So I think once the fires are out in production, I think by weekend the production will be back up there. I'd be fading any type of oil trade. I think that's going to revert this one back. I think this dollar CAD picture is, again, we're going to be talking about 133, and then grinding its way, I think, back up into the 134 range, I believe. We have CAD news later in the week. If you guys look at this, manufacturing is not a big deal. Got a lot of CAD, and again, none of it screams that this is great. Going into, and then this core sales, core retail sales. Now, core retail sales, it's showing that it's going to be down. Retail is up, but core is showing just a 2% versus a 0.9. So I think, again, this is me thinking, I believe that this is going to eventually work its way back up again. Again, nice temporary bounce for oil. It'd be good. Some profit, some CAD strength. Love it. But I believe oil will come back down just because I don't see Saudi Arabia being like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to produce less. We'll let everybody else in the world make less, make more money, and we'll just make less. I just don't see that being a thing. Okay. Looking at pound dollar. I'm sorry, dollar yen. Now, any of you guys trade ES today? Or any of the indices? I heard a lot of people. I saw a lot of people taking trades in oil, and I saw a bunch of you guys trading currency today. I didn't see many people talking about the indices. Okay. Now, this one had the far gap, which kind of that's kind of what we expected. Now, this one rallied all the way back up, right? Came up and then just stopped. Okay. So here's where we gapped. Here's where price is right now. Okay. It did go a bit lower, but nothing really spectacular. Really just retraced. You trade SPY today? Yeah. So, we're back up in a sell zone for me. Now, again, we had talked about before this one pushing higher. Now, interesting enough, right? Here was that zone that we drew before, right? What did it do? It did come over. It did get back into it. So again, it is another kind of momentum breakout story. We mentioned this last week, right? We talked about how it did come back down and touch. Well, it did the same thing. So had you have closed this position on Friday, could you have re-entered today with the exact same trade you took last Friday? Yes, right? It came back down. It hit the zone. Here's your white space, right? I'd probably just do this, right? There's your white space. Okay. That came up, went down, boom again, right? And then again, there would be your white space again. Maybe that's what I'll call it. Maybe I'll call it like triangle trader or something like that. A momentum breakout story or something. So again, you could have done this the exact same, trade twice. I would like to see this go higher. I know that it just spiked past and now it's red. I really want this to get high. Right, I want it to come back up into this zone up top, back up in this 109.32 area. I don't want to try to pick the top of this one because I don't think there's a whole lot keeping this from running any further. I think this definitely I don't think there's really much at all able to stop it from going to 109. So it's not one of those things that I'm looking to get short this pair. Okay. We've had these kind of pullbacks, nice kind of launching point areas. It's just kind of how I'm feeling this one. Come on. The lag is killing me. I mean, see, there's this little pop right here, but it's not that much. And that's kind of that's where we've been. So we've already popped into the area. So I don't really see too much reason why this can't go up to 109. So I'm not looking to get short. As far as pullbacks to get long this pair, it's kind of sketchy. I mean, there's a lot of supply down here. You guys can see there's a zone here, then a lower zone, then a lower zone, then a single wick on here. So there's a lot of places that it could take off of, but none of them scream, hey, this is a launching point, right? None of them are really large extended range kind of moves out of those zones. They're just minor kind of small ones for the day. I was hoping we get one or two kind of nice moves, like somebody made some type of comment and we get a pop, and we didn't really get it. I was really hoping for more. Okay. We just weren't there. I mean, smaller time frame, there was this pop here that wasn't horrible that you could have taken. But again, you're talking about what, 30 pip move. It didn't last long, and then again, it's retracing had you had too far apart. Trade commodities and indexes on index only. Yeah, that's good. You got 4 points. It's not bad. So again, on this one, really not a whole lot of setups for me. Like I said, I am definitely more bullish. I'm looking to get short this pair. I just don't have an opportunity right now. A place that I'd be willing to, say, yep, that's it. That's where I'm doing it. All right. Looking at CAD Swiss. CAD Swiss is actually a pair that I didn't look at today. Come on, you can load. Come on, load. There we go. All right, so Cat Swiss is interesting because, again, oil, Swiss, again, a little bit of a hybrid. Didn't really do that much. Like I said, I don't think I missed anything by now looking at this pair today. As you guys can see, it's been a lot of time here. Really, from 9 o'clock this morning, it didn't really move. It had an initial reaction. It did come back down and retest and then kind of use that as a takeoff point. So, I mean, again, you did have that. Okay. You took a little tiny bit of heat. Not a big area. Let's see kind of what was that area. You're talking about 8 pips, right? You would have had about 35 is bringing to this level right here of basing, which is not bad. I mean, it ended up going to the upper level right there, about 40. So again, I probably would have been conservative. I mean, with 8 pips, I would have probably gone for probably in this area about 30. 8 for 30 is not a bad trade setup. So again, I did miss something by not looking at this one. It's not on my standard radar, but again, you could definitely traded that one. 8 for 30 wouldn't have been bad. And again, you guys can see this one. This would have been, you may say, well, wait a second, it really was, it's not really the same direction. No, right? This is the opposite direction. It was in a downtrend. It gapped above, so we're using the gap as a launch point to go higher. Okay. Yeah. And again, this could be the start. The turn on this one was based off of a daily zone. That was what originally sent this down. So again, the gap is an interesting place for this one. Okay. So you could have traded that one. Right now, again, I'd be looking for this to retrace back down. I think we'll get back down to this 74.80. I'm sorry, 74.60 area. I don't think I'll have any problems getting back down to that zone. Okay. But no, I don't have a setup on this one. And then last but not least, let's look at CAD Yen. When it loads. When it loads. I have a lot of things open right now. Fortunately, I was doing a little bit of getting lacrosse jerseys for the kids, and I thought the tops are reversible, and the guy sent me white and green shorts, and I'm like, oh, okay, if the top's reversible, the shorts must be reversible too. Well, the shorts are not reversible, but he didn't tell me. He's like, oh, did I mislead you on that one? I'm like, well, why'd you send me a picture of white and blue, and then white and blue tops, and you told me the tops were reversible? Like, wow, this on the daily looks exactly the same. Really not much different. Let me make sure that actually changed. This one didn't have the same gap though. Okay. Again, looking into, let's see, Monday. Where are we at here? Friday. Yeah, Friday to Sunday is right here. There's Friday. There's Sunday. So really didn't have the gap. So the last one had the gap. This one didn't have the gap. Again, this is going to be more of an oil play, but more of an oil reserve play. Not necessarily, again, this, until Canada says we're going to produce the extra amount, it's not going to really give us anything in this one. So areas, again, that I'd be looking for in this, I would still be looking at this top side here. Again, if this price, again, rallies back up into this 4-hour area, up top around, what are we looking at, 81, like 82 area? 82, I'm looking to get short this pair. Again, see how this one goes on Wednesday. I think there'll be a lot of talk about this oil number. Let's see what it is right now. And they really love this too. Look at this. Like they're like stuck with this like just above -2. Like really. But we'll see. Did anybody hear, James? Maybe you know this one. I saw that Trump approved a release of the Strategic Oil Reserve if we needed it. Did they actually release it, or did he just approve it? I don't think I saw anything on that earlier. Each trade deal. Striking. Look at that. Currencies is on the move again. 6.6 trillion again. It was actually down. It was down to like 5.8 or something like that, or 5. It was actually dropping. But again, it's surging back again. Look at that. All heck breaks loose. Currency back up to 6.6 trillion a day. I love this. It could be weeks that we haven't reduced output. Yeah, right. You'll have that stuff up by next weekend. No, I don't see it. No, he just approved it. Okay. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this must just be news because he's approving it. But then you didn't hear anything about a release of what it is. So, if we need it. But again, all the surplus, I didn't think it was a thing. Yeah, so. All right. Yeah. All right. So with that being said, guys, I don't really see much in this one right now. Like I said, I think this will be, as things come back online, the oil story will disappear and we'll go back to this. This would be a oil inventory report based off of Wednesday. I will say, though, again, we'll talk about this tomorrow night, but I do expect that the the volatility, I think, will be very high going into Wednesday for oil, because it's been a story for multiple days. I think I think everybody and their mother will be looking at oil on Wednesday, and all these poor people that go long oil on Wednesday, and then it starts to go down. They're gonna be like, "Why is it doing this?" You know, that's all people are reading. That oil had a huge day today, like the biggest day ever, and now tomorrow they're gonna be buying it. It's like Bitcoin, right? Yeah, my grandmother's looking at oil, right? Yeah, it's like, oh my God, Bitcoin's at 19, it's going to 100,000. Everybody said, I need to sell my car and buy some, and then it goes back down to 6. Yeah, oil went up. I got its biggest day ever in oil. Let me buy at the top. Yes, yeah, that's what everybody's thinking right now, right? Yeah, that's what they're thinking. Um, I was looking for the chart. Do I have it up here? I like the chart we had last week, but they changed it. I can do the trade view button, but let's see. Yeah, I was looking for days. I like the old chart. They just changed this one. It's like, eh. This is funny. 50% of clients are net long. Eh. It's interesting. I love this one. Here's your support. There's a resistance. Yeah, 66. Like literally, what's going to drive it up $5, right? I mean, unless they attack again tomorrow, I don't see resistance 3 hitting. So, all right, guys. With that being said, let us bounce through. Last chance, bag holders. Last chance to get into the drawing. Make sure you guys do exclamation point ticket. I will give you guys 40 seconds when it says 112. Look at that. Hey guys, I'm gonna say it right now. You guys saw it, okay? Ernest is saving it till the end. He's putting it in. Vic is buying 2 tickets to stack it in his favor. Look at that. You guys see that? Vic over there with 2 tickets. Okay, so he's buying extra tickets and Ryan has 2 sets of tickets just to make sure that they beat Ernest. So it's Ernest versus the world. All right? So there we go. Look, guys, I'm hitting close giveaway. Okay? So there. Giveaway's closed. You guys saw it in the beginning. All I did was hit, again, copy and put it in, but that copy does not mean give it to Ernest. So I'm going to hit it right now. Okay? If Ernest wins tonight, which will be 4 days in a row, I'm going to ban Ernest from winning it tomorrow because you guys will be so convinced that this is a conspiracy. All right? All right. I've already closed it down. Here we go. And the winner is... Oh, Jesus. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Hey, somebody please type, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. All right, let me go ahead and over here give, where is James? James is right here. Let's give James some 25 pip chips. And there we go. Oh, I almost hit reset. Like it was a save button. Boy, would you guys have been angry. Woo! Angry, angry, angry. All right. So you guys are good. Ryan, I don't know if you figured that one out or not. James is like, man, I'm at these things every single night. All right, guys. So with that being said, again, we can update these for all times. And again, with that being said, if you guys are around, I will see you guys tomorrow morning for Nadex. Bright and early, 7 a.m. We're going to go over kind of what we saw tonight. And we'll jump into some new things as well, and then kind of position tomorrow out for the day. And if not, I will catch you guys tomorrow night. Just as a reminder as well, I'm reminding you guys early this Thursday. It will not be at 9 o'clock. I'm going to probably move it earlier. I was thinking about it, so you guys can tell me which one you want to do. So I have a game this week at 8:30, and the thinking was I could either push it back and do it at 10 Eastern time, or I can move it forward and do it from 7 to 8 Eastern time. Yeah, I was kind of leaning more towards the 7 to 8 because I'm probably going to be exhausted afterwards. Doing a 10 to 11 p.m. one may be a little bit rough after playing a lacrosse game. But I was thinking maybe if I did 7 to 8, try that time and see how that works, just for the fall. Typically, we play Friday nights, but unfortunately, football has the stadium. So if we want to play on turf, we have to play Thursdays. So you guys can let me know Discord. You guys can do a vote over there, and we'll figure out which one works best, and then we will make the announcement later on this week. With that being said, it's 10:15. Went a little bit late. I am out of here, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. If I can find the right program. It's like, why is it not working? All right, guys, later.
Ah!